Before we can erase fear, it's important to know what it is. The fear I'm talking about is the feeling that overwhelms you. Phobias, traumas, conditioning that crops up from time to time without warning or apparent cause. I'm not talking about short-term fear like being startled by a noise, unless that happens to you all of the time. I'm talking about fears that seem to be recurring. And these experiences don't have to be brought about by anything obvious or even necessarily physical. Sometimes they're anxieties or worries that disable you and keep you from enjoying life. Yet they all have one thing in common. Something began the feeling. Some original occurrence initiated the chemical flow through your brain and into your body, and it keeps showing up. I was born with one of these seemingly unexplainable fears. I might even say it was terror. It created complete cortical inhibition within my brain, made me break out in a cold sweat, and disabled my ability to respond rationally. That fear was a total aversion to plant life. Now, before you shake your head and say, let me say it again. From my earliest memories, I was absolutely terrified of any plant larger than a pansy. Trees weren't included so long as they had small leaves, but trees with big leaves were even worse than other plants. My sister enjoyed my distress immensely. She was the poster child for the younger sibling who wanted to terrorize her older sister in any way possible. Once she realized my inhibition, she chased me around the grocery store with large heads of curly-headed cabbage, made sure she pushed me into the milkweed lining the sidewalks on the way home from school, and generally made my life as miserable as possible. This aspect of youth remained unresolved as I matured. I moved from Reno to San Francisco and brought it with me. I remember once walking through the Arboretum in a San Francisco park filled with its rubber tree plants sporting those gigantic leaves and trembling so much that I had to run out of the building to allow those behind me to finish the tour. I did everything in my power to keep anyone I met from knowing about my fear. I was even more afraid that they would take advantage of it like my sister did when I was young. So life continued until one day when I was facilitating a spiritual workshop years ago. There was an upright African drum in the workshop facility, and many people had been enjoying standing there playing it either with their hands or with the drumsticks. I knew I also had an estrangement from drums, really didn't want to play them, yet it was nowhere as strong as my fear of plants. As I watched the various participants enjoying themselves with the drum, I decided it was time to do something about my long-hidden secret. So when it came time for the group to break for lunch in another building, I stayed behind with an intention of playing the drum and doing battle with my fear of plants. I didn't know what I was going to do exactly, yet my inner guidance said this might work. Once everyone had left, I settled myself in front of the drum and, picking up the drumsticks, began what I imagined would be a very tentative beat. Another I took over, and I was drumming for my life, and that was exactly what I was seeing. Myself as an older Native American woman who had been left behind in camp with the other women and children while the brave